Well, welcome to the fourth of 8 videos looking at the symbolic frame, and during this particular video we're going to look at the aspect of culture, and we're actually going to do a slight little deviant follow a deviant path where we're going to look at national culture and some of the metrics that you may use to measure that. So, should be a short video, should be pretty interesting. We'll start off with looking at culture. And culture is going to be this pattern of shared basic assumptions that a group has learned as it solved different types of problems. You know, it's the way we do things around here. It's a product and a process. And I've got this picture over here. There's some of the awards in the last couple of years at my organization. And if you think back to one of the earlier videos where we were talking about, you know, to be nationally recognized, you start to build a culture where innovation is expected, because every year we're going to be going back and competing for different types of national recognition, and that means every year we've got to be innovative and rolling out something that really meets our customer needs and does it in a creative, innovative, transformational way. There's a great series of quotes out there. I'm going to let you Google them. But look at the relationship between leadership and culture and strategy. How do those terms intersect? And what do you think? Do leaders shape culture? Does strategy shape culture? Or is culture shaping strategy and leaders? Can leaders overcome the culture of an organization? Oftentimes characterized, while there's passive resistance to, you know, what I'm trying to do within this particular company. Well, maybe the culture is where the issue is. And I talked about it earlier in the human resources frame, but probably worth revisiting that sometimes the only way to change people's minds is to change the people. Sometimes if you're going to fundamentally address culture within an organization, you have to change the people within that particular organization. And this was one of the challenges I ran into at one point, and we had to pretty much let everyone go in a small sub unit within the organization because we couldn't fix the culture. It just was not going to change, and so we had to let a number of employees go, and we did it gracefully and took care of them, but at the same time we just were not going to change the dysfunction of their behavior due to their belief of how things should be done within the organization. All right, let's move forward. Let's look at national culture. And there are a couple of cool websites, so you can see this one on the next slide, where you have this idea of national culture. And they have these 5 metrics, these 5 dimensions that they're using to measure a national culture. And so the first is this idea of power distance. What is the measure of power inequality between bosses and subordinates? The second is this idea of how comfortable are people within this particular nation or culture with uncertainty. Do they avoid it? Do they embrace it? How do they deal with uncertainty? The third is individualism. How important is the individual versus the collective? So being an individual, is that at the paramount, you know, the paragon of this society, or is it more important for folks to be working in a group or in a society? And I'm going to pause right now because your mind is probably spinning as you think about the different cultures that you're familiar with and how they may rank within these, you know, dimensions. Difference between males and females. You know, is it a culture that emphasizes ambition and achievement, or caring and nurture? Try driving in Turkey or Saudi Arabia sometime, and this dimension will come into the full sunlight. It'll be very clear where those particular cultures fall. And then finally, this idea, is it a short-term or long-term orientation to the nation? All right, so I actually did a screenshot that looked at a couple of different cultures, and so you can go back out and look at this. And in this particular case, I believe we were looking at individualism and where the United States actually fell within that ranking. And then that's over on the and then the idea between being masculine or feminine is over to the right. So on the left, I guess there are three rankings here. So you've got the overall rankings, you've got individual or power distribution, individualism, and then masculinity. I didn't get to the last two, but I've got the link there. You can go explore that and look at different cultures and look at where they are in terms of their natural culture based on these dimensions. I think the other thing to think about, are these the right dimensions? They definitely got me thinking. And how would you measure culture within your company? Would these be the dimensions you would use within your company? Lead to some interesting conversations. All right, well, this is a little quote. This is going to be the last in the this particular video. But look at this. Our links to yesterday and tomorrow depend on the aesthetic, emotional, and symbolic aspects of human life, on saga, play, and celebration. Without festival and fantasy, man would not really be a historical figure at all. Very good. So again, think about this. How does this tie to your company, and how does it shape the culture of that particular company? And perhaps an interesting context, when looking at this, as if you go back and look at those companies that are within the Dow Jones average, only one has been there over the last 100 years. Everyone else has changed in and changed out. And so there's lots of turbulence in terms of the rise and fortune of different companies, and lots of industries that you could look at. If you look at electronics, the number one rising stock in the 1980s was Circuit City. They went bankrupt in 2008. If you look back at the number one hotel in the 1970s, they're still in business, but they're not the dominant player anymore. And so this idea of culture within a company has to be tempered within the longevity of that culture and within the national context of a national culture that is taking place. All right, well, that brings us to the end of this fourth of 8 videos looking at the symbolic frame. And what we're going to do during the next video is start to explore other components within this frame.